Teaching Math in the Bronx, take 2. Hello and good morning, Algebra 1. Let's do this. Let's continue our journey of domain and range. Make sure you have your notebook, grab your popcorn because it'll be a G-Money video for today. So let's review what we were talking about yesterday, right? So let's take a look at our paper. Let's first make sure we have our notes and our notebook from yesterday. We have our lesson over here. Let's take a look. What is the game plan today? So yesterday we were learning these words of domain, range, increasing, decreasing. Make sure you have your notebook, that you have all the definitions so we can look at it. If you don't have the notes, they are in the classroom, so you could definitely take a look, or I'll provide them for you over here. So let's take a look at this graph. So notice that you have some wiggly line like this, kind of like dinosaur's neck. But here it is some graph that's like this, right? And what do we want to do? We want to identify and get good with 4 things: the domain, the range, the increasing and decreasing. So let's look at the definition for domain. And what does it talk about? The domain is all possible x values, how far left to right you can go from the graph. So when I take a look over here, I say how far left to how far right. So notice, what is the leftmost point of this graph, right? What is the farthest left of this graph? It is this point over here. And notice that it is an open circle, right? But what I'd like you to do is, what is the coordinate of this point, right? So it has some x comma y. What is the x value of this point, right? This is the x-axis. This is the y-axis. Pause the video. What is the x value of this point, right? It looks like it's -11, right? So the x value is -11. And what is the y value of this point, right? It's -11 up to 6, right? Okay, so now how far left can you go? The farthest left is -11. Well, how far right can you go? The farthest right I could go is up to this point over here, and notice that it's closed. Well, what is the coordinate of this point? It looks like the x value is 11, and what's the y value? It is 4. So what we're going to say is that the domain of this graph goes from -11 to +11, because the farthest left I could go is here, farthest right I could go is here. So let's just say here for domain, from -11 to 11, okay? But the way we are going to show the first form, we're going to show this as an inequality. So the way we're going to show this as an inequality is we're going to say that x is in the middle, and that, notice, because if I have an open circle will imply it is less than. If I have a closed circle, it's going to imply that it is less than or equal to. So watch what we do. All we have to do is put this symbol over here because it's closed, and then we put the number 11, and then we put this symbol over here because it is an open circle over here. So what this is saying is, you have every x value. Let me show this over here. All right. What this means is you have every x value from -11 all the way to +11, right? So this is the inequality form. When we show the interval form, anytime you have an open circle, what we're going to do is we're going to show parentheses, right? But if I have a closed circle, I show brackets. So the way it works is you say open parentheses, -11, comma, 11 bracket, right? Because this is saying with this inequality symbol and the parentheses, right? And I'll write the word over here, parentheses. And this is bracket. What this is saying is you have every number between negative 11 to 11, but you don't have negative 11. You don't have this number, but you have every other number in between. But you do have 11 because the circle is closed. Okay? And that is domain. Because domain, what is the definition of domain? Right? The domain is all possible x values from left to right. So all the possible x values from left to right are negative 11 to 11. Okay. Well, what about the next one? Here I have range. Well, what is the definition for range, right? Let's take a look at your notes, right? What is the definition for range? If domain is all my x values, range must be all my y values. So how far low to high can I go? So before, for domain, I went left to right. Now for range, I go low to high. So here, let's take a look at the graph. Which is the lowest part of my graph? Tell me when to stop. Which is the lowest part of my graph? It is right over here. So we say stop over here. So let's put a circle over here. And what we're going to do is, what is the coordinate of this point, right? What is the coordinate of this point? Well, let's see. What's my x value? It's negative 6. What's my y value? It is 2. Right? Because you see, this is the point, negative 6, positive 2. Right? Well, what about over here? Where is the highest point on my graph? Tell me when to stop. Right? It is right here. This is the highest point on my graph, and be patient. You could pause the video. What's the coordinate of this point, right? What's the coordinate? Let's see. The x value is 6, and what's my y value? 8. And notice that both of these circles are closed, right? They are closed circles. Every point on this graph is closed except for this part over here. This is an open circle, right? This is open. Okay, so now when we talk about the range, we're talking about all my possible y values. How far low and how far high does the graph go? What is the lowest y value that you have? The lowest y value is 2. 2 is the lowest y value. What is the highest y value you have? It's 8. So you have every y value from 2 to 8 for the whole entire graph. Okay? So now, how do we show this as a range? So from 2 to 8, right? From 2 to 8. But then how would I show this in inequality form, right? I put x in the middle, and then now, how should I have my inequality symbol, right? Pause the video and try this by yourself. Show it in inequality form, show it in interval form, right? Pause the video. Okay. Now let's say if you want to go through it, it'll look like this. Right? Because you have everything between 2 and 8. And now here it'll be bracket 2, comma, bracket 8. Because these circles are closed, right? These circles are closed. So there you go. That is the domain and range of this graph. Okay? All right. From here, pause the video and make sure that you feel like you got this. If you feel a little shaky, just raise your hand. Now I'm looking at the time and I notice it's about 9 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm going to say let's focus on this tomorrow because I think increasing and decreasing might be too much for one day. If you get very solid with domain and range, that is a big plus. So we'll give it a check over here. Let's try the next page, okay? Let's try the next page. What I'd like you to do is, here is page number 2, find the domain, find the range of this graph, right? Pause the video and try it by yourself. Pause the video and try it by yourself. So let's take a look. Domain is left to right. What is range? Up and down. So let's take a look. How far left does the graph go? The farthest left is this point over here, right? So this is the farthest left of the graph. What is the coordinate of this point? Notice that it is -11. And what is the y value? The y value is 11. Well, how far right does the graph go? The farthest right is over here. And it just happens to be +11 for my x value and -8. So it seems to be the same answer as before, but what would it be in inequality form? It'll be x over here. This is less than -11, less than or equal to 11. And then in interval form, I put a parentheses, -11, comma, 11 with a bracket. Right? Because this is my open circle and this is my closed circle. Okay. Well, let's take a look over here. What's the range, right? What is the highest point on my graph? Well, the highest point on my graph is, and notice here for domain, when you are looking at domain, you're looking at the x values. But for range, I'm looking at what? I'm looking at the y values. So what are my y values from lowest to highest? So what is the lowest point on my graph? It happens to be here and here, right? These are my two lowest points. But notice that, oh no, pause. This is not the lowest point. I take that back. This is the lowest point right here, right? This is the lowest point. And notice what is this point? It is about what? -2, maybe I should put it here, -2, -9. So you have to go from low to high. So what is the lowest part of my graph? It is -9. Because this is my y value. You're looking at the y value. And notice that this is a closed circle, x. And then what do I have to put over here? What's the highest y value you have? It's +11. But notice that this is an open circle. So technically you don't have this point, but you have everything very close to the point. And then this will be like this. And this will be like this. Oh, sorry, camera angle is bad. And then what about here? So then I have to do bracket -9, comma 11. And this should be parentheses. Okay? I hope you got this right. And if you didn't, just raise your hand and I can go through it with you. Okay, let's take a look. We're almost done. Here, how clever are you? Let's take a look. Let's take a look. What am I asking you to do over here? Can you create a graph draw a graph that has this, right? So the question is, how clever are you? Draw a graph that has these features. So notice, what do I want your domain to be? And what do I want your range to be? Can you draw a picture where the domain is this and the range is that? And then when you're done, show this. You see how this is an interval notation? Show this same thing in inequality notation, right? So pause the video and really take your time. Really, really take your time. Let me see how clever you are. Draw a picture with this domain and range. All right. So let's say you want to try and do this, right? Well, notice how far for domain is left and right. Well, how far left am I going to go? So my farthest left value is -3. What is, and let me get closer a little bit over here. What is my farthest to the right? It's +2. Well, how far low can I go? It is 1, 2, 3. And how far high can I go? 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So now notice that this will be my first point, because notice that this is my x and this is my y. So you could say negative 3 comma 3 is 1 point, right? This is my x and this is my y. So where is negative 3 comma 3? It is here, here. Now the big question will be, is the circle open or closed? Because you have the bracket here, it must be what? It must be closed. When you take a look over here, this is my other point, 2 comma 7. Where is 2 comma 7? It is over here. Now the big question, open or closed? It is open, right? Because you have a parenthesis here. And then all you need to do is connect the graph any way you want. And then this picture will suffice. Notice that the domain of this graph is from negative 3 to 2, and the range is from 3 to 7. Okay? Good. If you didn't get a chance to, how can I express the domain and range in inequality form? It has to be x in the middle, x in the middle. Well, actually, yeah, you can put x in the middle. Actually, no, for range, it should be y in the middle. So for domain, let's take a look. It should be, this one is here with negative 3 and 2, because this is closed. And then this will be 3 to 7. Okay. All right. This was a very good question. Try this one on your own. Let's see what you got. And then when you're done, the summary and reflection questions on the end are pretty good. So doing this question is good. This one we didn't really work on increasing, decreasing, and constant, so we'll focus on that one tomorrow. Analyze. Why is it important to know whether the endpoints of an interval are included or not included? This is a good question. And then which one do you like more, the inequality or interval form? I hope today's lesson was good. I'll see you.